now we're going to talk about our main topic. Okay. So, I am in the belief that if you're a guitar player that plays out, not necessarily someone that's just at home, right? That's a totally different thing. But if you play out, if you played sessions or anything like that,
Yep.
I think every guitar player should have more than one pedal board.
We can agree on this.
Perfect.
We can agree on this.
So here's my statement. I feel like a guitar player, if you play acoustic and electric,
Yep.
you should have no less than 3 pedal boards.
Yeah.
I think you
that
should
probably
have.
Makes sense.
I think you should have one for an acoustic.
Yep.
And I say pedal board lightly. Like if you have one of those Tech 21 acoustic rigs,
Yep.
that counts as your whole pedal board.
Right.
If you have, let's say you're taking a Princeton or a Blues Junior and you have a small pedal board.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be big, but
Right.
it should be a separate entity that you can grab and everything's connected to it and you can just plug into it and you're good
Grab
to go.
and go. And then have one bigger board. Whether you change things in and out or it's a mainstay.
Yep.
But I really feel like if you have multiple amps for electric.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So you should have definitely one acoustic board and one electric board.
Yeah.
But I really do think if you have a small amp and a bigger amp, which most people do,
Yeah.
you got to have at least 3 boards in total.
Yeah. So you kind of go a different route with pedal boards. You kind of set up pedal boards for an amp.
I think you have to.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they live for that amp only. And you don't really swap things out a lot. You kind of leave all the same stuff on
I'm a set it and forget
And
it
I
type
go a
of
little
person.
different route. I do have multiple boards, and I take them on different occasions. If I've got a little more space, I might take my big board. If I've got a little less space, I might take my little board. But they're not necessarily always with the same amps. Sometimes, if I'm taking a different amp, I'll swap overdrives to fit that amp a little bit better, or the gig. But they've got like mainstays of this, this set of pedals usually sticks with this board. I might change 1 or 2 pedals off of it. But I do think you need multiple boards. I think that, if you're playing acoustic and electric, you definitely need an acoustic board, which you don't need a ton on an acoustic board in my opinion, but you need some type of direct box or some way to change it, change your signal. I want a pedal tuner, and sometimes I want like a little bit of a shaper. Some type of, whatever that happens to be, if it's some type of EQ, if it's some type of like preamp style pedal. And if your guitar doesn't have an active pickup in it, you're going to need something to kind of push that also.
Sure.
So you need a little bit of stuff, and then other people might play delays or chorus or whatever. But you need some type of an acoustic pedal board. And then for me, I like having a small travel grab and go board that I could throw in I could throw it in a suitcase, I could throw it anywhere I want to. Small little travel board. And then I like to have a little bit larger. I call it my large board, but my large board these days is much smaller than what it used to be.
Sure.
However, it's large for me. And then that's the one I take to gigs where either I need a lot more effects or if I've just got the space for it.
Yeah, so I think you hit on a good note too, because we think of boards differently.
Yeah, we do.
Like you said, I kind of have a smaller electric board that's for specific amp or amps.
Yeah.
And I just set it and forget it. And then I have a bigger board for my bigger amps.
So you will take a small amp
And a small board.
and a small board to a gig that needs a smaller thing. For me, I might take a small amp to a gig that needs a smaller amp, but I could still possibly bring my big board if there's enough space for it, or if I need whatever, or if I just want to.
Right.
And I can kind of like flip-flop that way, where you're much more standard. Big amp, the big board comes. Little amp, little pedal board, which makes sense.
I have a simple mind.
So
small board, small
Yeah.
amp. Big board, big amp.
Yeah,
Like,
it makes sense. It
yeah.
makes sense. It's just I like having the flexibility of changing things out a little bit.
I do everything but label them.
Right. Small board.
Yeah.
But you don't like to pull pedals off your board and swap stuff out as much as I do. And I kind of like switching things up a little bit more. I think that's what it comes down to. But do you need multiple pedal boards? I think so. I think if you don't have multiple pedal boards and you're playing out or playing different venues or different things, it'd be cool to have a pedal board and a thing set up for if you know you're playing a gig every Friday night at this certain place and it requires something special.
Right.
You've got a board just specially for that gig on Friday nights.
And I hope you all take this into consideration. If you're starting out, like, you don't need multiple boards
No,
all at
no,
once.
no.
Like, this is for someone who does it, like...
You don't need a board if you're just playing at home and starting. You can throw them on the floor with a little power supply, and you're good to
Right.
go.
And it's not like a you have to. It's more like out of convenience and making sure that you're making use out of your time.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is like when you have new pedals coming in all the time, that's why I like to set it and forget it. Because, like, if I can do less thinking and more concentrating on what I'm playing,
Yeah.
that's what it's about for me.
Yep.
So I don't like switching things around.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because this is like, you know, we talk tons about gear. Like, that's the most of what this channel is talking about gear. But ultimately, the whole reason that I want to talk about gear here is to make it simpler and to, like, remove some of the barriers to get us to playing more freely.
Right.
You know, let's break it down. Yeah, we want to talk about the fun things that maybe we're going to buy or check out or do. But ultimately, like, let's remove the barriers and get down to the nuts and bolts of it. What do you need for this? What's going to make you feel more, like, in tune with what you're playing?
Yep.
So, yeah, I absolutely agree, though. Multiple boards. So, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I guess there is a little bit. As far as multiple boards go, you know, even try to test out, like, different shape sizes of boards too.
Yeah.
Like Guthrie Trap, like, he has like a 12 by 12 board.
It's like perfectly square.
It's perfect.
It's really cool. I've actually kind of thought about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. So experiment and tell us what you think. But